Do you need glasses? Well, if you live in an urban environment, if you live in a well-educated society, there is a high chance that the answer to this is in fact yes. In this video, I'm actually going to tell you about the cause of short-sightedness in particular, and how you might be able to prevent it in yourself. The inoculation against short-sightedness. So, let's start off by talking about the strange epidemic we seem to have of short-sightedness. If you look at Singapore, over 100 years ago, it was just an agrarian society. Most people were out in the fields. And at that time, the rates of short-sightedness were around 4% or less. Singapore very, very quickly became industrialized. It instituted an education system. People became literate. Technology pervaded. So, what could be the cause? Well, at first, people tried to blame books. Maybe it's because you're holding books too close to your face when you're reading. It's straining the eyes. No, that wasn't the cause. Then people tried to blame TVs. Maybe it's the unnatural light from the TV. Maybe it's staring at something at constant distance. No. Then people tried to blame mobile phones as well. All of these things, any technological change seems to immediately have skepticism, and people will jump on anything to say, oh, this must be a bad thing. It was none of those things. The epidemic of short-sightedness in these communities, in urban environments, in places with good education systems, it's nothing to do with books or the technology. It is the exposure to sunlight that you are getting. So when you're born, your eyeballs are shaped like a sphere but squashed, a bit like sitting on a football. As you get older, your eyes elongate. But if that elongation goes unchecked, it will end up the shape of a rugby ball, and you will be myopic, short-sighted. So how do you prevent that? Well, if you're below about the age of 19, there is a chance for you to save your eyes from some of that short-sightedness. The answer is to get out in the sun as often as possible. The sunlight, when it gets to your eyes, causes a chemical called dopamine to be released. And this dopamine stops the eyeballs elongating too far to become that rugby ball shape. Now, before I say anything further, I'll tell you right now, do not look directly at the sun. I have to say this because I know somebody will come to me and say, oh, you told people to look at the sun. No, don't stare at the sun. Obviously, that's stupid. Obviously, that will make you go blind. But you do need to be out in sunlight as often as possible when you're young, particularly between the ages of about 6 and 9 years old. That will have the most preventative effect against short-sightedness. Unfortunately, if you're older than about 19, it is too late for you. And 90% of those people who are short-sighted, I'm afraid it was likely that you caused it by your childhood, not spending enough time out in the sun. So this is a message to all people younger than 19. This is a message to parents of people younger than 19. That age group needs to be out in the sun as often as possible. I know that sounds like a contradiction to my last video where I was saying wear sunscreen every day, but we wear sunscreen because we have to be out in the sun if we want to maintain the health of our eyes.